Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Let's Talk 2E virtual conference for gifted and 2E adults. I am so excited about this conference because not only of the amazing 16 speakers and experts that we have, but this is the first ever conference for this population, which is really pretty underrepresented, under-researched, under-supported. So we are all very glad to be bringing you this information. And I hope you've had experienced some amazing sessions so far, and maybe even joined in the fun of our dedicated Facebook group, Let's Talk 2E Adults. So if you haven't, when you get a chance, head over to Facebook and connect at Let's Talk 2E Adults, because we know that as gifted and 2E adults, it's pretty hard to find our peer group, our interest peer group. So head over there and have some fun, introduce yourself, and meet 2E adults from all over the world. So the focus of this conference is threefold: to help gifted and 2E adults gain self-awareness, personal fulfillment, and professional fulfillment. And I gotta say, I'm all about the self-love, guys. And I happen to know that our next speaker agrees with me and also really loves to help people find self-love. So our next session is titled New Hierarchy of Needs and 2E. So here's the intro, and I'm going to tell you about our speaker. So over 70 years ago, Abraham Maslow developed a 5-tier model of human needs. Often depicted in a pyramid, the foundational needs are the basic needs, and the pyramid works its way upward towards self-actualization. In this talk, psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman will present a revised hierarchy of needs, supported by recent research and incorporating Maslow's writings on the importance of self-transcendence. Scott will tie his revised hierarchy of needs to the basic needs that are important for 2E adults to gain agency and momentum toward living a more self-actualized life. Isn't that so cool that he's going to take this and he's going to apply it to us? Yay. So who is Scott Barry Kaufman? He is a cognitive scientist and humanistic psychologist. He is the founder and director of the Center for the Science of Human Potential. These are all such cool names. And the author of several books, including Transcend, The New Science of Self-Actualization. He is also host of the Psychology Podcast, the most popular psychology podcast in the world. Welcome, Scott Barry Kaufman, to Let's Talk 2E.
Thanks for having me, Julie. It's great to be here.
So great that you're here. I'm going to jump off, come on at the end, and we'll have a little convo about all the cool stuff you're going to tell us, okay?
Sounds good. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a bit about self-actualization today. This is a phrase that many of you have heard, but maybe are not as aware of exactly the origins of it, and particularly the humanistic psychologist Abraham Maslow and the way he talked about it. This is from an unpublished essay that the humanistic psychologist Abraham Maslow, who spearheaded this whole field of humanistic psychology in the 50s and 60s, he writes, "We try to make a rose into a good rose rather than seek to change roses into lilies. It necessitates a pleasure in the self-actualization of a person who may be quite different from yourself. It even implies an ultimate respect and acknowledgement of the sacredness and uniqueness of each kind of person." So today I'm absolutely going to be sharing a new hierarchy of needs and tying it to the population of 2E adults. But it's also important to recognize that, you know, if you've met a 2E adult, you've met a 2E adult. You know, you've met one. There's a real sacredness and uniqueness to each individual that can't be generalized to everyone within that identity group. So, but I definitely want to help people today to, wherever they're at in their self-actualization journey, to become whole and to integrate as much as possible the different facets of themselves. And it's some of it, you have some unique challenges with 2E adults because you may have identities that go in opposite directions. And then the question is, how can you come to a harmonious integration of them in a way where you feel whole and you feel very satisfied and comfortable in your own skin? Growing up as a 2E kid myself, it was very difficult to reconcile these two different identities. So I personally have a lot of empathy for that and can understand how confusing it can be. It can be quite bewildering. You know, on the one hand, I was this, you know, as you see in this picture, I was full of wonder and awe at the world, and a really curious kid, really imaginative. But then on the other hand, I was diagnosed with all sorts of things, auditory disability, but also they said I was immature. I wouldn't behave in the classroom. I would come in with Superman capes and all sorts of superhero costumes and run around the room and do make-believe things that disrupted the other students. And so they called that immature, and they made me repeat third grade. They didn't quite know what to do with me with the certain set of characteristics that I had. So I can really empathize profusely with this feeling of different parts of you going in opposite directions, and also people seeing you in different ways depending on who they are. If it's a school psychologist, they may view you through a particular label differently than your friends who think you're cool, and think you're fun. Maybe through a different lens than your parents. And so, I think a big part of the integration process for me was to not be so reliant on the perceptions of others on me, but to develop a really strong internal sense of self-love and integration and acceptance of the totality of my being. So really, when I talk about self-actualization, I'm talking about the integration of the totality of your being all that you can be. And that requires having your basic needs met, as well as having your growth needs met. So many of you are probably quite familiar with this famous Maslow hierarchy of needs, as it's usually depicted here. You have at the very, very bottom base, food needs. Actually, sometimes you see it with Wi-Fi at the bottom as a joke, a meme. You have food needs. You have, water. The most basic essential needs to survive. And then if you have those to a certain degree, then you can move on up to security needs and safety needs, and making sure that your immediate environment is free of crime and violence and too much unpredictability. If you have enough of that, you can move up to love and belonging. Once you feel a sense of belonging, connection to the others, you can go to self-esteem, and focus on helping others. We'll focus on gathering your self-esteem from real, genuine pursuits and a healthy self-esteem. And then self-actualization is really all that you can be. That's an integration of all those things. Usually it's the most unique part of yourself that no one else can lay claim to. What is the most unique potentiality within yourself out of all the potentialities? But there's a lot of misconceptions, and I might blow your mind today, because it turns out that this is all wrong. This is wrong. In fact, Maslow never even drew a pyramid. There's never any writings where he drew a pyramid. This was a mischaracterization of his theory of motivation. This was a bunch of management consultants in the 50s and 60s psychology consultant textbooks, where they depicted his theory as a pyramid, as this sort of static step game. But it turns out that life is not like a video game. It's not like you reach a certain level of basic needs, like belonging, and then some voice from above is like, congrats, you've unlocked esteem, and then you move on up, never having to deal with the lower needs. That is not a real adequate representation of what it means to be fully human. I don't know about you, but I've never eaten a lunch and then never had to worry about eating lunch ever again. I just moved on up, in my hierarchy after I had ate lunch. I never returned to needing to eat food again. Or connection, these are things you have to keep replenishing over and over and over again. In fact, the real important distinction Maslow made was between deficiency needs and growth needs. Or he actually talked about the deficiency realm of human existence and the growth realm of human existence. When you're in the deficiency realm of human existence, you really want to impart on the world. You want the world to conform to your own deprivations. So if you're hungry, and you're in the deprivation mode, you're basically screaming, feed me. If you're lonely, you're saying, like me. If you're low in self-esteem, you're saying, please respect me. But if you can replace, if you can enter the growth realm or the being realm of human existence, Maslow said it's like replacing a cloudy lens with a very clear lens for the first time. You're able to see the world on its own terms. You're able to see the world not for its utility value for your own deprivations, but in and of itself, you could admire people and things on their own terms. And the world looks much more beautiful. And you also are more capable of growth